downfield relatively quick. So Brawl versus mid-range Daka that can also brawl. We'll have to see
Yeah.
who's going to come out on top. And honestly, the first thing that jumps to my mind is it's going to come down to the approaches. If you're running a super short-range Brawl deck, are you going to be able to close the range without taking an excessive amount of initial run-up damage? Today's picture-in-picture, of course, brought to you by Mr. MDM0 himself. He'll be providing you some cockpit view. And let's take a look at some of these builds. Small pulse SRMs on the Hunchback 2Cs. So these
maybe they are a little more
Hunchback Brawly. And that, of course, is on the Tempelritter side. So that they didn't opt for the Daka.
These executioners are running flamers on there as well as their small pulse.
Wow.
And they have one of them has a Gauss rifle, which is a little interesting, a little bit of range there. The other one has, I believe, a Clan LBX-20.
4 flamers.
Small pulse flamers Clan LBX-20. I do not want to see that one in a dark alley.
These are extremely unique builds. We're gonna have to see how they roll. Now that completely threw off my, of course, North American bias, saying, well, they're gonna bring like 12 small pulse lasers. No, this one brought 2 small pulse lasers, 3 ER small lasers, 5 flamers, and an LBX-20. Like, I have never seen that kind of build, but we're gonna have to see if they can use it effectively. Much less, much less Alpha Strike, so the stopping power is gonna be on the lower side.
Yeah.
But they really went for like that stun lock control style build, and if they can keep these executioners alive during the battle, they can potentially do some significant damage. We'll have to see. Both teams kind of doing a little bit of a rotation here. Code Black in the middle, getting some scouting data, actually getting shot in the back. Wasn't sure whether he saw them coming or not, but he got knocked down to 86%. I think it was he was on the move out of there. He knows where they are. So 19th Striker has an idea of where Tempelritter is operating. I don't think though, has the scouting data to know where 19th Striker is operating.
No, they seem to be moving as a single pack here.
So they are staying together, and they are going for the cap points, but they are already down. They are not going to be able to sustain this rotation for much longer. So if they just continue to rotate around the map, taking 1 point at a time, they will not be able to win on caps. Eventually, this is going to have to result in a brawl somewhere. And right now, 19th Striker is perfectly fine moving as a group, basically not forcing the fight. And they're just going to stay ahead on the cap. Here. Yeah, they're just going to stay ahead on the cap. They're fine doing this. Just continue this tour. We want to see a fight, but if I was 19th Striker and I knew that I had a 4-cap rolling, just continue to move as a group. The worst thing you could do at this point is split up, and the worst thing you could do at this point is allow Tempelritter to decide where the fight is going to occur. And they need to stay ahead, and then if they decide they want to turn and fight in a place that's advantageous to them. Find some high ground somewhere and force Tempelritter to have to come up to them. So I think this is perfectly fine by 19th Striker, what they're doing. And then now we're going to be watching Tempelritter. What decision are they going to make that's going to hopefully turn the tide of this fight for them, because they are hemorrhaging points. They cannot sustain this for much longer.
Yeah, they need to be aggressive here.
Interesting note that Arctic Cheetah slipping around behind them. He's kind of ghosting them. He knows where they are, and he's just going to back cap them now. So now the cheetahs that are running around and capping do need to be careful, because if it looks like the fight is going to get close and get into a brawl, you need those cheetahs to recall, because going in 6v8, even in an advantageous position, could be pretty brutal.
Yeah, it looks like here that Tempelritter is moving right up to Theta here.
Yep.
Maybe just trying to get some better map control than what they've been doing, kind of chasing around the outside of the maps.
So 19th Striker has been ghosting them. They know where they are, which is fantastic for them. Now that they realize that Tempelritter is moving up into the center of the map and going to opt for the fight now, where do they want to fight Tempelritter? 19th Striker now has the ability to choose the place to fight. Where's it going to be? And I think, honestly, fighting over this gap would be fantastic. They could potentially jump up on top of the D4 region, which is a very strong region, and just wail on them as they approach. But
yeah, the only thing you don't want to see is them to lose the advantage of the high ground in a fight. They
Yeah.
don't want Tempelritter to jump on top of them and get them in a bad spot. They have the cap advantage, but the important thing to remember is if you get stomped 8-0, then that cap advantage goes away real quickly.
One interesting thing to note, though, is with those executioners,
And they just
they're
got sight on
they're
him the oxide here.
they are much faster. Oh, it looks like Tempelritter is turning around. They are opting, or 19th Striker is turning around. They're opting to fight here. I would say position-wise, this is actually advantageous to Tempelritter. And
Yes,
they
it
have
is.
those Arctic Cheetahs not in the fight. Exactly what I was talking about. They are still capping. They're going to play the cap game, so I guess 19th Striker is just going to try and waste as much of their time as possible so they could win on caps, which is fine. But these guys need to be able to start getting some of this focus downfield, and
Tempelritter needs to get
win
into the
this
fight here.
First things first, the Hunchback 2N down close, working in a 1v1 against the Hunchback 2C, but taking a lot of extra damage from the rest of the
Griffin is
Tempelritter
about
mechs.
to go down
He's
here.
about to go down,
But he
but
does
he is
get a
able
kill.
to kill that Hunchback. We have had 2 quick kills on Tempelritter with only one on that Griffin
One of them
2N.
was a team kill.
So it looks to me like a 19 Striker is doing a really good job, even being down a man. And look at that Executioner with those flamers, just working the heat on the Kodiak.
And those Arctic
now.
Cheetahs are back in the fight, actually, and they are backcoring one of the Kodiaks, about to bring him down, and I think he is heat locked.
This looks to me like it's going pretty well for 19th Striker, even being down a few mechs. They are focusing extremely well. They did have one of their mechs in the back here getting worked down against 3 mechs, but to be perfectly honest, even if all of these 19th Striker mechs die, and they did get their Arctic Cheetah recalled, even if they die, they're still going to win on caps, I would think, at this point.
And at
They're
this
capping
point, I think
Theta.
it's over.
So all of even if Tempelritter was able to come through and sweep these mechs,
And those flamers
the
are
cap damage
devastating
was
against
done.
this Black Knight. There's nothing he
Oh,
can do.
the stun lock with those flamers. I think those Executioner builds worked really well for them. I mean, they're very
Absolutely.
curious builds
And they're
that we
still
haven't really
up.
seen before, but if their job was to essentially lower the time to kill, or raise the time to kill of their opponents on their mechs, they seem to do a really good job, because this brawl has been happening for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And running at heat cap really slows things down. So,
And here's this Black Knight about to be heat capped.
yep, and that is
Down
all
he
she
goes.
wrote. And to be perfectly honest, they were about to win on caps anyways. Like,
Yeah.
it was that close. So, very good map procedure by 19th Striker, just working the outside of the map and having faster mechs as Executioners with the mask. They can outrun the Kodiaks, and they could just stay ahead of their enemy. So I think really the worst thing Tempelritter could do is continue to mess with the cap game. They needed to identify a lot quicker that was not going to work, and they needed to get their lights out there scouting. They really did. That was the biggest fail, in my opinion, is not having those oxides up by Theta, trying to identify where their opponent is, and maybe even skirmishing and locking down those Arctic Cheetahs, just trying to allow them to not free roam and get 4 caps on them. So I do think it was well played by 19th Striker, but in this case, I think Tempelritter kind of shot themselves in the foot with this procedure.
Absolutely.
And ultimately the brawl at the end was purely for flash, because the outcome of that brawl had absolutely no impact on the results of the fight. So let me bring up the map real quick to show you guys kind of just the intense rotation that we saw. And I'm gonna be the weatherman for a little bit here, and show you. So we had immediate movement of Tempelritter around these parts.
Just a great big circle around Canyon there.
Uh-huh. And then I think right about here is when they decided, well, this isn't going to work. And then this is the craziest map I've ever had to draw. But
All the way back around.
and then the killing grounds was right here. And then of course 19th Striker.
It's like the scenic tour of Canyon Network was going on this match. They literally, I think they literally did almost a complete circle around the edge of the map.
Yeah, I think that's where that ended up.
Yeah.
So Save that map, ladies and gentlemen, because that is the most map coverage on Candy Network you will ever see. The entire time that their main bodies were operating in this giant circle, um, the light mechs for 19th Striker were doing their jobs, forcing the 4-cap, and Tempelritter basically lost this fight before a shot was even fired, to be perfectly honest. And that's a tough one to swallow, but hopefully they can take this to heart, I guess, into the remainder of their matches and try and figure out what went wrong there. I don't think there was anything wrong with their builds at all. I don't think this was a loss in the mech lab. The fight did not matter. I'm going to stress that right now. This was purely a drop calling and a strategic use of the map issue, that it doesn't matter if they were all in awesomes or something, or if they were in like the best mechs in the game. The fight did not matter at all for this victory for 19
Now, that
Striker.
being said, the fight did not matter at all, but 19 Striker took the fight as well. They took the strategy in the fight of that game. So
And they did, and I don't want to take anything away from 19 Striker at all. They knew that they could stay ahead of their opponents. They had the scouting data, so their Arctic Cheetahs did a fantastic job. They did get one of the Cheetahs back into the fight very quickly, which is a fantastic job. And ultimately, they focused better, and they just took it to Tempelritter. Tempelritter did lose this one for themselves, but 19th Striker did not give them any favors whatsoever. They played very, very well. So,
and I tell you what, those Executioners with those kind of different sort of builds, but with mask, that sort of speed and assault, and all those flamers, that's horrifying.
And they got them right where they wanted them. Yes, they didn't have the high ground, but they turned around and said, well, let's go right back into them, get into that small pulse range. And those flamers went to work, and with multiple flamers like that, it literally takes like 2 seconds to get your opponent up to 90% heat. So if they shoot once, they're overheating and shutting down. And we saw those Black Knights, of all things, the Black Knight is probably one of the mechs that getting a flamer on the Black Knight is devastating, because it is a laser vomit mech. It is physically incapable to output anything if it's being stun locked like that. And you can override and try and go for it, but it's not going to work for you. So it was a really good job by 19th Striker identifying that and bringing those flamers to bear. They are powerful weapons in the right hands and used correctly, and I saw a fantastic use by those Executioner pilots, doing a really good job. So take note. I mean, you don't need the high vomit output all the time to be successful. And the Flamers have made a resurgence since they were buffed. And we see them a lot. You know, some people are like, oh, they're still garbage. No, I don't think they're garbage.
No, definitely not.
Especially in Brawls. I mean, only in Brawls, but...
Only in Brawls, and especially in an organized match.
Absolutely. They have a place in my heart right now, and I run them on like my Griffin, 3M, 2N, whatever, and I run them in like the 4v4 Scouts. They're fantastic to just lock down the small pulse Stormcrow or something like that. They're really very good weapons. So we are going to head back to the break, and we'll be back shortly with Drop 2. Stick around. I'll throw up a couple of videos here for you guys to watch in the meantime. But hopefully enjoyed our first drop. It was pretty intense fight at the end there, even if the match was essentially decided at that point. But these Europeans, man, they bring us some exciting stuff. So that's why I enjoy casting them, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will see you guys in a little bit.